Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is November 9th, 2022, and we are in the New Testament, and we are going to read from the book of John today. We're going to read John chapter 4, verse 43 to chapter 5, verse 18. All right, so who was John? He was a disciple. He was one of the first of the disciples called. He and his brother James were called together. Jesus gave them the nickname the Sons of Thunder, so they were kind of rambunctious, I guess. Uh, James and John and Peter made up that inner circle of the disciples that were always with Jesus. That when Jesus wanted to whittle it down so there were only a few people, it was usually one of those three that was with him. John was also considered Jesus' best friend, I guess. They call him the beloved disciple. So he was up right next to Jesus for most of Jesus' ministry. And we see that in this gospel that we're reading here, because we're getting some details that weren't in the other three gospels that we've read so far. We got a little bit of a ministry in Judea that he started that we didn't really get in the other gospels, and we saw him go through Samaria, and now he's back to Galilee in our story so far. And John's going to give us he likes to give us signs that Jesus is the Messiah, that Jesus is God. He gave us that first one, water and the wine. Now he's going to give us a healing miracle, and he's going to follow that up with another healing miracle. That third healing miracle is one that happens on the Sabbath day, and that puts him right in conflict with the Pharisees of his day. And Jesus pretty much flat out says, hey, you know what? Healing is a good thing. I'm a good thing. What are you guys complaining about? And that's basically the argument against the Pharisees. Here they are arguing over minutia of the law, whether it was a Sabbath day. It's like, I just healed somebody. This guy was paralyzed. You knew he's paralyzed. I walked in and said, don't be paralyzed, and he's not paralyzed anymore. Instead of falling down on your feet and going, this has to be God, you want to complain that it's Sunday, and I shouldn't have done that. So John is really letting us see what's this problem with these Pharisees, that they just had it in for them. They knew that Jesus was a threat to their way of life and their being in charge, and they didn't like it one bit. So let's go ahead and we're going to read John chapter 4, verse 43 to chapter 5, verse 18 today. After 2 days he left there for Galilee. Jesus himself had testified that a prophet has no honor in his own country. When they entered Galilee, the Galileans welcomed him because they had seen everything he did in Jerusalem during the festival, for they also had gone to the festival. He went again to Cana of Galilee, where he had turned the water into wine. There was a certain royal official whose son was ill at Capernaum. When this man heard that Jesus had come from Judea into Galilee, he went to him and pleaded with him to come down and heal his son, since he was about to die. Jesus told him, unless you people see signs and wonders, you will not believe. Sir, the official said to him, come down before my boy dies. Go, Jesus told him, your son will live. The man believed what Jesus said to him and departed. While he was still going down, his servants met him, saying that his boy was alive. He asked them at what time he got better. Yesterday, at 1 p.m. The fever left him, they answered. The father realized this was the very hour at which Jesus had told him, your son will live, so he himself believed, along with his whole household. Now, this was also the second sign Jesus performed after he came from Judea to Galilee. After this, a Jewish festival took place, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. By the sheep gate in Jerusalem there is a pool called Bethesda, in Aramaic, which has 5 colonnades. Within these lay a large number of the disabled, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One man was there who had been disabled for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and realized he had already been there a long time, he said to him, do you want to get well? Sir, the disabled man answered, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm coming, someone goes down ahead of me. Get up, Jesus told him, pick up your mat and walk. Instantly the man got well, picked up his mat, and started to walk. Now that day was the Sabbath. So the Jews said to the man who had been healed, this is the Sabbath. The law prohibits you from picking up your mat. He replied, the man who made me well told me, pick up your mat and walk. Who is this man who told you, pick up your mat and walk? They asked. But the man who was healed did not know who it was, because Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. After this, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, see, you are well. Do not sin anymore, so that something worse doesn't happen to you. The man went and reported to the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. Therefore the Jews began persecuting Jesus because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. Jesus responded to them, "My Father is still working, and I am working also." This is why the Jews began trying all the more to kill him. Not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal to God. May God bless reading of his word. May God bless you. Bye.